My name is Julie, and there we go. Still working on the lighting setups in here. Of course, obviously it changes depending on where I'm sitting and what I'm using as my backdrop, which today is the twinkle lights. Okay, all right, so I'm having a snack. Hope you don't mind. I am, so while I was on my road trip the other week, I ate a lot of carbs. I had a lot of carbs, and that's not a problem, right? But the breads and stuff, those ended up being a huge problem because I have dietary allergies to like most grains. But I was on a road trip. It was vacation. There was all kinds of, plus it was convenient. It was really convenient. We bought like, you know, bags of the roll, like steak rolls and stuff like that at the bakery. And then like sandwich stuff. And it was just easy, you know? But speaking of butts, it totally messed up my guts. Like, oh my God. So I've been giving my guts a rest. And so we're having protein. I'm not saying that I'm back to like a purely low carb diet, but maybe you could say a dirty low carb diet. You know what I mean? Because I'm never giving up my coffee creamer, you know? Plus, these have all kinds of like whatever in them, preservatives and God knows what else. But anyway, today we are talking about being a housewife. And we have a reason for it. So, here's what we're drinking today. Hi, Amy. Thanks for being here. Some Coca-Cola Orange Cream Zero. Olivia, my oldest, got me onto this. And it is, oh, it's good. Okay. So being a housewife, I would love to hear about, your experiences as a housewife. Did you grow up expecting or planning to be a housewife? Is it something that kind of life circumstances kind of made happen for you? Like out of necessity or what have you? I want to know about it. So please tell me. For me, it was never the plan. It was never the plan. Oh, Vicky, thank you. And hello. Okay, first, Amy. Yeah, I got to stay away from the sugar. That was the other thing on the trip. Oh my God, way too much sugar and way too many grains and my poor guts. Good Lord. Hello, Liz. Hello, Kathy. All right, so Vicky, thank you for the reminder. Let's go ahead and set this up. Okay, this is the standard warning. Subscribers only, starting in 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right. Thanks for the reminder, Vicky. I appreciate it. All right, so why am I thinking about being a housewife? Hi, Renee, and what that means and what that is. Hi, Kathy. I didn't plan on being a housewife. That was never my plan. No. I also didn't plan on having kids. I grew up in a family with 8 children, and it wasn't horrible, okay? I had a good childhood. But it wasn't what I wanted for myself. You know what I mean? And then I went to be a nanny. Jesus, God, that was a trip. We'll talk more about that and some other stuff, but another time. Anyway, but I went to be a nanny when I was 19. I went out to Connecticut and was immediately the nanny of 4 children. 4. All of them 10 years and under. Yeah. And when you're a nanny, you live with the family. You drive their cars. You eat their food. It's a lot. Like I said, we'll get into that. And I have so many nanny stories. Like, I have so many. But that'll be on a different day. Well, between growing up with 8 kids and then the nanny experience, I No, I didn't want to have kids. I wanted to be a businesswoman. I wanted to live in the city. When I was a nanny, I went into New York a lot, and Boston and everywhere else. And it was so Hi, Bonnie. Thanks so much for being here. It was so exciting and exhilarating and stinky, but it was a lot of fun. And so I had it in my 19, 20-year-old head that, you know what, this is the path. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to live in the city, hopefully New York, but maybe somewhere else. And I'm going to be a high-powered businesswoman that wears sneakers with a pantsuit. I had all these ideas. I had all of these ideas. And then I came home from being a nanny. There was a lot of family turmoil at the time, so much drama. And I went through several relationships really quickly. And I'll tell more about the relationship situation another time, or maybe today if we have time. But I was at a vulnerable place and wanted out of the family home again, and ended up getting married to someone I shouldn't have married. I was 21. That, of course, was a huge mistake, but it was also a great learning opportunity. But at that time, no, there was still no plan to be a housewife, no plan for children. I was working full time at Walmart at the time, and had no desire to change that. Well, that marriage didn't last. And then, hi, Dennis. Thanks so much for being here. So that didn't last. And then I went through a period of just anarchy. Yeah, maybe. Chaos, just absolute chaos, as happens with divorce. And I was very deep in my eating disorder. I was sad. I was in a really rough spot there. Okay. And a lot of crazy relationships, lots of wackiness that we'll get into more later, but still of the mind that if I ever married again, I was going to keep working. I was going to, all that stuff. But I had started having some knee problems with my left knee, most especially. And, I had been a long distance runner. Hi, Pamela. Thanks for being here. I had been a long distance runner and ended up with some injuries, and then came to find out a lot later that I, had a disease that would, that's deteriorating my body. But I didn't know about any of that yet. So this matters, I promise. When I ended up meeting James, my husband, my now husband of 20 years next month, woo! I was already starting to struggle physically. And in fact, 2 or 3 months after we got married, been eating jerky. I had my first knee surgery, the first of 3. And that was rough, but I still went back to work, And then shortly thereafter, I was pregnant with my oldest, Olivia. And then we had some drama and catastrophes and things in the family that, in the extended family, that I was in no way prepared for. Sent me very deep back into my eating disorder. I ended up in a treatment facility, a lockdown treatment facility, for the majority of my pregnancy. I went in voluntarily, sort of. The doctor was going to pink slip me. My doctor was going to pink slip me if I didn't go voluntarily. So I went voluntarily. And it was a really rough time for my life, for our marriage, just in general. But I took a leave of absence from work. I wasn't ready to not work. And how was I going to? How would we afford that? But I spent all that time in the treatment facility. And then I got released 2 weeks before, I think it was 2 weeks-ish before I gave birth to Olivia. And I didn't want to go back to work at the time, mentally. Hey, my love, what are you looking for?
Shorts.
Oh, you need them right now? Huh? Okay, I'll just move this light. Okay, hold on. my darlings. James needs to get into the laundry room, which is right next to me. Will you grab that? Thank you. Apologies. Oh, Dennis, thank you for that. Amy, thanks for spending some time with us. I appreciate it so much. Sorry, while he's doing that, I'll get caught up on the comments. Oh, Kathy, I wonder what that was like. Single and being crazy in your 30s. That's a whole different experience, I bet. Much different from the 20s, especially here in Utah. You got it? Okay. Love you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Okay. There we go. Anyway, so it was a wacky time. And I did end up quitting my job at Walmart. Even though I was making good money, I was doing really well for myself, and I was all lined up to like move up, you know what I mean? Like work my way up the ladder kind of a thing. And everything had like fallen apart. Hi, Holly. Thanks for being here. Everything had fallen apart. And at that point, we just kind of decided together that I wasn't going back to work. I had not like the roughest pregnancy, but also having been, hospitalized and all of that stuff. And then dealing with lots of mental and emotional struggles. I just ended up not going back to work. Well, it was rough. If you, hi Jerry. Oh, it's so good to have you in the comments. Thanks for being here. So we ended up kind of deciding, it was like a weird thing. It wasn't like it was set in stone. You're going to be a housewife. You're going to be a stay-at-home mom. It wasn't like it was, I don't know that we ever said that, but I know like James had a stay-at-home mom and he liked that and thought that would be good for us as well. My mom, she was technically a stay-at-home mom, but she also had jobs off and on throughout my childhood. I mean, hello, we lived in Northern California with 8 children. So, But anyway, I ended up being a stay-at-home mom without planning to. But thinking that, maybe I'll go back to work, maybe, whatever, in time, that could happen. Obviously, it never really did. I did have, little situations along the way that, brought in money and all of this well before I started dumpster diving, even before I started couponing. My brother, who is also my best friend, I adore him. We are like pretty close to being like Irish twins. So anyway, he had hired me to be kind of a nanny again, but for his children, so that it would help with his wife, and hi Phyllis, and they could go to work, and there's, whatever, all this stuff. So there were 2 different periods of time where I was essentially a nanny for his kids, but mostly like an overnight nanny. And that helped bring in money. And then, I did a few odds and ends here and there. I was a nanny for another family for a year or 2, just doing these different things while being a stay-at-home mom, and then ending up having more kids. And then, of course, more health problems and issues that made it unlikely that I could hold down a regular job. So because of all those things, I ended up as a housewife. Well, that can be very different, very difficult when you're used to having your own money, your own freedom, you know what I mean? It's tricky. It kind of messes with you mentally. I had come into the marriage with my own car, my own money, my own things, you know, and then to become dependent on someone else, which I had said forever would never happen to me. That would never be me. It ended up happening. And whether that was, you know, fate or whatever, I don't believe, I've told you guys this, I don't believe there's a reason for everything. That's bullshit to me, okay? But it just ended up being my situation. And I want to express how incredibly grateful, so grateful that I understand how great a privilege it is. It's an amazing privilege to be able to stay home, raise our children, and have my husband provide for us. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so grateful for that, and I acknowledge what a massive privilege that is. Okay, let's get that out of the way. All right. But it is also very tricky. I had started earning my own money when I was 12, and then had jobs until I became a housewife. I always had a job. I paid for my own car as a teenager. I got my own braces, paid for that. Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate that so much. Renee, I'm so excited for you. Oh my God, congratulations. Best wishes for your wife and the baby. That's so excited. And best wishes for you for your savage mud race. That sounds fun and messy. So I ended up as a housewife. And when I had, you know, my little side hustles going on, it helped a lot because that was my own money. Now, mostly I used it to help with the kids' clothes and, you know, stuff like that, gifts, whatever. But James was paying like the bills. But it was so nice to have that extra money. That money that was mine. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't know, but I think there's plenty of people who do know exactly what I mean and have been there and feel it. It was my money. It was mine. It wasn't family money. It wasn't whatever. Now, some people I know could argue, well, then, you know, your husband, where was his money? And that's tricky. That is tricky. But if you look at it as like a job, well, I was the one at home raising the kids, taking care of the house, doing, you know, all of that. And so the family money is what essentially paid me. Do you get what I'm saying? And then so on top of that would be James's money, would be whatever's left over. And then for me, the extra money was what I earned in these little side gigs. I don't know if you guys can understand that, and we'll probably get a lot deeper into it another time. But it's an experience, and for me, it messed with me a lot. As stated, I'll state it again. I am so incredibly fortunate to have been able to be a stay-at-home mom, a housewife, if you will, especially with the vicissitudes of my health and everything that has come up, and then my children's health, and then all of that. It has worked out so well that way. But now I'm starting to, a lot of it comes down to the van. Let's be honest. A lot of it comes down to the van. But it's also in relation to this like trad wife phenomenon. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. If you're not like chronically online, then you probably haven't. If you don't watch TikTok, you also probably haven't. But there's this like trend that has blown up of these beautiful women being all dressed up, and the hair and the makeup and the nails and all that shit. And they're baking and cooking, and everything is from scratch, and their kitchen is spotless, and it's all, you know, a bit of a song and a dance, and it's this impossible ideal. And they call themselves, or I don't know if they call themselves that, but other people certainly do. It's just a thing that has arisen, unfortunately. that they are trad wives, meaning traditional wives, because no one can ever say words all the way through. We have to shorten absolutely everything. Abbreviation, that's what we do. So they consider themselves traditional wives, based a lot on like this false understanding of the 1950s, incredibly false understanding of the 1950s that was, media driven, and anyway, a response to the war and trying to get women back into the home, back into their place. So it's a thing. It's a thing. And it upsets some people because it puts out these like ridiculous standard, these ideas of standards of what it means to be a housewife. Those things are not what it means to be a housewife. The majority of these women have a lot of money, whether through their own family or their husband or what have you, or just their presence on, social media. And it's not real. It's not real. A lot of them have been exposed as having nannies, housekeepers, all of that. So it's utter nonsense. It is utter nonsense, but it can get into people's brains when you're feeling vulnerable and things like that. So I was thinking about that a lot, and then I'll come back to the van and how that's been kind of messing with me. But I was thinking about it, and something I'm going to start doing. It might not be till the kids are back in school in a few weeks, but maybe sooner. We'll see. But one of the things I'm going to do is live streaming what it is like actually in like real life in middle America, you know what I mean? Like what it is like on the daily to be a housewife without a fortune, without all that money, without a big house, without a housekeeper, without, you know what I mean? And then more specifically as someone who lives with limitations. So I'm really excited to do that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It'll be a little tricky, like dragging you guys along with the tripod as I, clean sinks and whatever. Anyway, but we're going to do it. And I'm really excited to do that to shed light on the reality so that those young ladies coming up now that are watching all the TikTok and the Instagram and seeing this like nonsense of this representation of being a housewife, and if it's like messing with their brain or their husband seeing it and expecting this nonsense, because I've heard of that too, and that's like serious bullshit right there. But I want to shed light on, what does it really look like? What does it really look like being a housewife while raising kids, not being rich, not in a big house, not with extra services, and then with some limitations, physical and mental, emotional limitations. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be interesting, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Judy. Hi, Judy. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Oh, Kathy, life. Oh, life. Yeah, me too, Judy. Sorry guys. Washer and dryer. My God, what a difference those make. I actually have washed clothing by hand several times in different situations, including one in Mexico with my tia Tonina, rest in peace. And she showed me how she had done laundry. They had money that they would put away and squirrel away, and they would not spend on anything. They lived a life like choosing that kind of, not poverty, but kind of poverty living as part of their devotion to their Catholic ideals, like Mexican Catholic ideals. It was interesting. But anyway, so I've done that. But God, I'm so grateful for our washer and dryer. Even though this one now, I can't really reach in the washer and have to use my grabber to get the stuff out. But I'm so grateful because we've done that too, where you got the laundromat and the whatever. Been there. Yep. So, Oh, Bonnie, I'm glad you at least have access to them right there and don't have to load up and go to the laundromat. That's good. So anyway, I want to talk about what it's like to actually be a housewife. Like I said, to shed light on the reality of the modern American housewife who is also center left leaning and wants to be independent and to raise independent women, and my daughters and my son to be independent as well, and all those things, and show the reality of it, because I think other women need to see it, and I think other men certainly need to see it. So we're going to be doing more of that. Now to the van. If you didn't know, the van has died. The dumpster diving van, old gray, is at her end. Now, she still drives, but not safely. And so James took Olivia car shopping earlier today because Olivia is going to get a car. And then James is going to find a car to be his work car, something that gets good gas mileage, doesn't cost lots and lots, that kind of a thing, And that's exciting and that's awesome. That's great. In fact, Olivia found a Nissan Altima that she was pretty excited about, which many of you know is my dream car. No, not some Bentley or Lamborghini or any of that nonsense, not even a Lexus. No, a Nissan Altima, because I have a long history and experiences with the Nissan Altima, and that's what I often drive when we rent a car and go on, my road trips and stuff like that. But anyhow, Lulu found one, and that'd be so fun if she does that, if she gets it. But anyway, so I was really... Bye, I love you. Let me know when you get there. But anyways, I've been really struggling with it. Now, I will get use of James's Acura that he bought. That'll be the family car, right? For the day-to-day stuff. I don't drive that much. I really don't. There's not a lot that, I drive around for. Doctor's appointments, take the kids to do this or that. And so James would, during the week, be using the work car, and so then I would use the family car. But it will remain his car. Like, he's not saying that, I'm saying that. In that, it's the car that he bought specifically for his adventures. Going into the mountains, and he built a whole setup. It's amazing. He built a whole setup, including solar panels and all of it. Like, oh my God, amazing setup. So he can sleep in his car up in the mountains and charge stuff with the solar panel. It's really awesome. He worked hard, did a lot of research, and it's amazing. Well, that'll still be the use of that car. Phyllis, Kitty is outside. During these warm summer days, she is wont to stretch out and absorb the beautiful rays of the sun. It's hard to keep her inside until the evening. So when James has his things, it's a bike trip here, it's a bike trip there, it's a whatever it is. Well, obviously he's going to need that car. That could leave me with his work car. But obviously I would use it, and it's not like he wouldn't let me use it. That's no. But it's still, and I know this is so obviously first world problems. I understand that, I get it, but this is my place where I can just be honest and tell my truth. You know what I mean? We are allowed to have feelings, even knowing that all these other people have things so much worse than us and blah, 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 da, 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 da. Them having a worse situation to us does not make our situation less frustrating or less real or less valid. Just want to put that out there, okay? So the other car will also not be my car. I don't know if that makes sense, because that'll be his work car. And then the Acura is his car. And he bought it for his adventures with that strictly in mind. And he's worked very hard to earn that and to have it. And I don't begrudge him that. But then that leaves me with no car, nothing that's mine. Now, in our early years, we would only have one car. When the kids were little, babies, whatever, and I would drive him to work so that I could then have the car for whatever I might need it for. And that just was what it was. That's being, newly married and, haven't built ourselves financially and, just real life. Okay. And that was what that was. But it was with the understanding, always knowing that we weren't going to stay that way. We would, do our time, do the work, live frugally, save money, whatever. And then eventually there would be two cars. And the family car would be mine as the stay-at-home mom, the housewife, right? That would be my car. And when we ended up getting the van, when Mariah was born, that's what happened. It was my car. Now, before James got the Acura, there were times when he took the van for, a thing here or a thing there. And that's fine. He could fit his bikes in there and whatever. But we all knew the van was my car. It was mine. Well, Olivia started working full time, and it's, a driving distance away. And so the van has mostly been her car for the last, year. And now she's going to get her own car, and the van is dead. And James is going to get a work car. And I'm going to, at least Monday through Friday, use the family car, unless, of course, he's going somewhere and will need it. And I don't know what kind of work car he's going to get, but if it's a stick shift, Mama won't be using that car at all. Can I drive a stick shift? In an absolute emergency, yes, but not comfortably. So where does this, what am I saying? And will anyone understand? I don't know if you'll understand, but I'm going to say it anyway, and I'm going to talk about it because that's what I'm doing here. It's not mine. Nothing is mine. Now, I know in marriage, you're supposed to share everything. That's this silly ideal, this traditional ideal that, no, you share it. What's yours is mine, and what's mine is yours, and we're a collective, and we, whatever. But that's not true. It's not true. And it's not real. That's not the reality here in the U.S. of America in the year of our Lord 2025. It's just not true. I can't afford it right now, Kathy. I can't afford to do that. I can't do that and still go on trips. And especially now that the dumpster diving van is dead. Can't afford that. YouTubers, 99% of us don't have much money. It's a common misconception that I know I've talked about before. The big ones, yeah, they make some money. But until you're at 100,000 subscribers, no, you're just getting a little bit of, pocket money here and there. Pay for your nails or your hairdo or gas in your car. So no, I can't afford it. So having been an independent woman with all these specific plans for my life that ended up being totally changed, just completely, but then still trying for so long through our marriage to have my own money, and have some level of independence and that kind of thing, it has been very difficult. So coming back to the, it's all communal and it's yours is mine and it's our money and but it isn't. Even if you have a joint account, you answer to the person who's bringing the money in. And that's just reality. It's just reality. Does it, Judy, I would not be opposed to that, but I would never ask for that. Absolutely not. Also, quick pause in that conversation. My Olivia has very generously offered to use whatever car she ends up getting, to use that a couple of times a month to do some dumpster diving with a lot of, stipulations in place about keeping her car clean and, whatever, which would be amazing. So, I mean, we have an option. We do have an option, which I'm so grateful for. I'm so grateful. And what a wonderful, wonderful daughter, and my children are wonderful. They're so fabulous. I'm so grateful. And I'm grateful to have been able to be a housewife and a stay-at-home mom and to be the one here all day, every day in my kids' lives, but so incredibly generous of her to offer that. And I love that. But also, I don't do that stuff, Kathy. The only things I do are my trips. Yeah. I do not live a luxurious life. No, I don't. And even on our trips, like these things that are, where I'm making memories, and the whole point of them is so that the kids have memories of doing amazing things with me before I'm physically not able to, So, now that's all relative, right, Kathy? Like, some of the things that I do are like absolutely luxury depending on your life situation. I've been to Disney World, Disneyland a bazillion times, and that absolutely is luxury. But I climb into dumpsters to be able to do that. You know what I mean? So no, I don't have money. I'm so fucking grateful that Olivia is willing to do that and is so generous and loving to offer that. It means the world to me. I am so grateful. Kathy, have a wonderful nap, my darling. Thank you so much for being here. But even with, and again, first world problems, I get it, but they're my problems. They're my issues. Even with that incredibly generous offer, thank you, Dennis, that still is not my car. It's not mine. And there's something about that, having been raised by amazing parents to work hard, to earn, to progress, to, work. The worst word I can ever be called by anybody ever is lazy. That is you can call me a bitch, you can call me ugly, you can call me fat, you can anything, but lazy. And having been raised that way and having pursued that in my life, a lot of that was instilling independence, self-sufficiency. But in being independent and in being self-sufficient, there's an ownership there. Even if you don't own a car, you don't own a home, you own the clothes on your back, they're yours. They're yours. And if you are providing on your own for yourself, then that stuff is yours. And this is part of how I was raised and the mindset and all of that. You didn't ask for help. You figured the shit out on your own. You worked harder. You just worked harder. You didn't ask for help. And with that came self-respect, so much self-respect, self-confidence. Sorry, it's getting a lot of it is because I'm thinking about my daddy, but self-respect, dignity, belief in yourself, pride, because you earned it. And with all that earning it and all that self-sufficiency, that's an ownership. You own that. You own it. It's yours. And you don't have to answer to anybody else about it. And you might make good choices and you might make a lot of really stupid choices too. But they're yours. All of it's yours and only yours. And I miss that. And I'm not saying that I'm in one of those situations, those horrific situations of wives, women, whoever stays at home. There are lots of house husbands now. I'm not in those kinds of horrific situations where I'm not allowed to access the family finances, not trusted with the credit card, not, you know what I mean? Like, hold on, I got to try to get you guys plugged in. This damn thing. It's being ornery again, just like yesterday. There we go. You're charging for the moment. James is a good man and a good husband, but he has his priorities and I have my priorities, and there are things he doesn't think are worth paying for doing. For instance, my Disneyland trips, he doesn't understand those. I don't think he ever will. And so in wanting to do those, knowing that they're an indulgence, they're an extra, that's left me having to find the wherewithal to pay for them and to do that myself, which again brings pride, accomplishment, self-sufficiency, feelings of independence, feelings of dignity, right? But then you get sick or broken or whatever it is. You guys know over the years, this body, good God, okay, and that will continue as I deteriorate further, regardless of the medical interventions that we employ. That's the path. And I will, for the rest of my life, barring like a windfall of some uncle I never knew about, that, you know what I mean, that kind of nonsense that we dream about sometimes. Barring something like that, I will be dependent on my husband or what he leaves behind. God forbid, if he goes before me. I would love for us to just go together out of this world, but it is what it is. We'll see. I will either be dependent on him or what he leaves behind for the rest of my life. And you're going to say, well, how is that a guarantee? You could go get a job. If you've been with us for any amount of time over on the Frugal Family and then later here, you'll know that no, that's not in this body. That's not going to happen. And is it all because of that damn van? Maybe not entirely, but that has been a huge catalyst for this thought process that I'm going through and this kind of funk that I've been in. Because I had different plans for myself. Like I said, I wasn't going to have kids. I wasn't going to be a housewife. God, no. I had all of these ideas of what I was going to do and what I was going to be, and stuff that I was prepared for from kindergarten. If you're familiar with the GATE program, Gifted and Talented Education, I don't know if it was across the whole country, but it was definitely in California, and I was part of that. And I was an incredibly high achiever. I don't want to say I was a genius, but yeah, I was. And so I was prepared. I don't want to use that groomed word because that has such a negative connotation now, but I was prepared and things were cultivated and I was nurtured in that direction. to be something and to do something, and had an aptitude. And unfortunately, I also was rebellious and struggled with undiagnosed ADHD along with some other things and other struggles, and wanted to be cool, and I didn't make the most of what I had, and that is a forever regret. But also, if I had lived up to my potential, I don't think I would have my children. I really don't think so. Because if I had lived that dream, gotten my education done a lot sooner, got on the ladder trying to climb my way up, I don't think I would have had my children. And obviously, if I had never had them, I wouldn't have known what I was missing. You know what I mean? But I do know. I did have them. And I cannot imagine my life without them. And then the other thing is, if I had gone that route, my body presumably would still have a lot of issues. Those things would still be part of it. And so would I even be able to maintain that career life, that independent life in this body? I don't know. I'll never know. I don't know. I have no way to know. That's all behind me. You know what I mean? We can never, though it'd be so cool. Do you know it'd be so cool? It'd be so cool. There's a movie called Sliding Doors. And it's has a Gwyneth Paltrow in it. And the premise is, with every time that these doors slide, like on the train, or doors open and close, you get to see simultaneously the two paths, the two realities that this woman, this character that is played by Gwyneth Paltrow, you can see the diverging paths that her life could take. How making this decision, that decision, whatever, took her in this direction, and then, on the converse, you have the other route, and it was so interesting. And I've been kind of obsessed with that movie for a long time. And the idea of seeing, Jerry, does that mean you've got to go for dinner? If so, bon appetit. I hope you enjoy it. I'm so glad you can be here. So, the idea of being able to see, well, what would have happened? What if I had stayed in Connecticut as a nanny, as most of my fellow nanny friends did for a long time, and paid for their schooling and did all those kinds of things, what if I had done that? What if I had come home and hadn't married at 21 to someone I shouldn't have married? Then what? What if I had married him and we hadn't divorced? Then what? Like all of these, because those are like big life decisions. What if we had never moved to Utah? My family. We moved here when I was a teenager. What if we had stayed in Northern California? Hi, Rhonda. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, butterfly effect. That's another one. That's absolutely another one. So what if? But we have no way that we'll ever know. Someday maybe I should write about it, and that might help to kind of suss all that out. If you had done this or done that or what have you, where would things have ended up? You know what I mean? I would love to know. I think we all would love to know. If I had done A instead of B, if I had gone left instead of right, where would I be now? Would the grass be greener? Or would it in fact be a wasteland? But we'll never know. But I really enjoy those kinds of thought exercises, Now I want to express, again, how grateful I am for the life that I do have. And that, like I said, I have a long-term marriage. I have a husband that works his ass off and provides all the necessities for us. I'm able to be at home. I'm able to be at home through the different physical difficulties that I've experienced and those of my children, whether physical, mental, emotional, all of it. And I'm so grateful for that. And we're going to talk a lot more about it. And like I said, I'm going to bring you along for more of it. I'm not going to say I'm going to live stream my entire day, but several hours. Yeah. When the kids go back to school and while I'm at home during the day, just the reality of this housewife's life. And it looks nothing like what you see on the TikToks and the Instagrams of the women in starched dresses with perfectly coiffed hair and nails and baking everything from scratch. No, that's all bullshit. No, it's not real. The internet is not real. But it's also not necessarily it's really weird. These other trends that I've seen of moms, housewives showing their homes in total states of neglect and disrepair and clutter and just horrific situations and showing their reality of that. It doesn't have to be either of those two extremes. It can be kind of like mine, where it's somewhere in the middle. And I want to show that. I want other young moms, young wives, young husbands to see that. Plus, I'm hoping that by bringing you guys along for all that and doing that it will motivate me. I've got selfish reasons that it will help motivate me. Oops, sorry, babies. That it will help motivate me to get shit done. You know what I mean? Like that yeah. I want to be able to get stuff done, have that motivation and incentive to get the stuff done. Yes, Judy, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Yes, Dennis, if is a big word. And yes, Judy, leave it to Beaver. Absolutely. Dennis, I appreciate that very much. I will say that on the Frugal Family, I obviously censor a lot more and I try to only bring my happy face and all that energy and whatever. But here, yeah, no, I am not fake at all. You're getting the real, this is, but with twinkle lights. Oh, God. Yeah. So, are you a housewife? Did you want to be? Was it your dream to be at home, be a mom, take care of the house? Or were you driven to, go the other path? I'd like to know. So once I get that damn, what it's called, software figured out, so that we can finally stream the computer, we're going to react together, watch together some examples of what I'm talking about. I also will probably make some edited videos of reacting to, but also explaining and comparing and contrasting these ideals, these absolutely fake, ludicrous ideals that are a huge trend on the Instagrams and the TikToks and all of that. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited to do it. Now, to wrap up on, come back to the van, and the dumpster diving situation. I took your guys' advice to not give up, to not announce any kind of hiatus or what have you, or to say, oh, I'm not diving anymore over on the main channel. I'm not doing that. I am probably still going to cancel the Patreon, just as an ethical, moral thing. People are so generous and pay with their hard-earned money in this economy to support the mission of saving and salvaging and the dumpster diving and the frugal living, all of that. But I feel in my heart that's not appropriate. But as I had mentioned, I think yesterday, I will be setting up a Patreon for this channel, which is an entirely different content and mission and whatever. So but that's in time. But I do think I'll end the Patreon. I'm not sure yet how to go about that. And like announcing that without making people think, oh, she's quitting dumpster diving. Maybe I have to just like explain, okay, the van is dead. May she rest in peace. And it also explained that Olivia has very generously offered use of her car on occasion to still be able to dumpster dive. And maybe that way I can still get, maybe, that's the thing, it's a maybe. I was thinking maybe then I'd still be able to provide the minimum 2 dumpster diving videos a month that are promised to Patreon members. So maybe, but I just don't feel good about that. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. I think you understand what I'm saying. But that's also a big step. And the other issue is I don't want to insult anyone ever, especially those who have financially supported us for years. I don't want to insult them or for them to feel like I'm ending a relationship or, you know, breaking up with our Patreon. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to insult anyone. And so I don't know how to approach that and how to balance it out where everything is so up in the air. We have a possibility, a potential way of still dumpster diving at least a couple times a month, but it's not a guarantee. Thank you, Bonnie. Oh, I appreciate that. Oh, Dennis. Oh my God. Dennis. Thank you. Thank you. The conversation I've been having with myself and with my kids is, I don't know if it's like a sports reference, but when it's time to hang up the gloves or hang up the cleats, you know, I don't know. Is this the universe trying to encourage me to do something different? Is this, like I said, I don't believe everything happens for a reason, but I do believe that there are circumstances and situations that can motivate or inspire us or what have you in a certain direction. But I don't know. So I just don't know yet. I'll figure it out. And you guys are such a great sounding board. So maybe we can talk about it again tomorrow or something. And maybe you guys can help me. You know what? Maybe that's what we can do. Maybe we can hang out together and write a script, like kind of craft some kind of script to explain the van and kind of where we're at with the hope of Olivia's car being part of it, while also canceling the Patreon, not hurting anyone's feelings by doing that, but explaining that we don't feel able to maintain that promise. And so, though we're going to try, we want to respect. That's what it comes down to, is respect. We want to respect our Patreon friends. We also don't want to, and this is just purely pragmatic, I don't want to drive a bunch of people away from the channel, subscribers and whatnot, by saying, we're done. We're done. No more dumpster diving. because that's the bread and butter over there. We all know this. I've accepted it. And so if I were to like immediately announce, oh, this is what I'm doing, da, 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 I would lose so many subscribers. Absolutely. Yeah, decimate. It would be destroyed. So we need to come up with a way to say it all. Maybe we'll work on that tomorrow. I don't know. Bonnie, absolutely. And that's the other thing. And yes, Dennis, change is constant. And I appreciate that you would want to help with the van if you were closer. I do appreciate that. My marriage and my family obviously are number one. And you guys know that over the years, the dumpster diving has definitely gotten in the way of the health of our marriage. And we've had to learn and grow together and make compromises and change things and what have you. And maybe that's still what we'll need to do. I don't know. It's tricky because, yeah, no, I don't want to hurt his feelings, but I also want to talk this stuff out without sharing too many details that it would, because he's a very private person. But I also need to vent, and I want to help other women, especially younger women, No marriage is perfect. No marriage is perfect. Marriage is work. It is. It's also love, and it's also all those other things, but it's a lot of work. And I want to be able to talk about that. But again, yeah, Bonnie, without potentially hurting James's feelings or whatever. But everything I've talked about today, he knows and he understands, and he knows that there have been times in our marriage where I have felt like I needed permission. Come on, if you've been a housewife, if you've been a stay-at-home mom, if you have been in any way dependent on your partner, you know this feeling. And it's not necessarily that they meant for you to know this feeling, although sometimes I think it is. But the feeling of, I gotta ask. Oh, can I go buy this? Can I have some spending money? Is it okay if I do this? Is it okay if I do that? Would that be a problem? What do you think? And I have to ask for permission. And as a grown-ass woman who started earning money at 12, that's a shit place to be. But that's not something you want to experience. That is soul destroying. Soul destroying. Again, not necessarily all the time through any fault of his own, but that was what I got. That's what I perceived. And he has admitted that sometimes, yeah, that's actually kind of been the case. It was just he didn't want to spend money on that. And so the family money, our money, was not my money. Now, we're doing a lot better with that now. Hey, you learn and grow. If you stay married, you're going to learn and grow. All right? Yeah, Dennis, he is. He is in love with me. And that's freaking awesome. He's so delicious. But anyway, but you learn and grow. And no matter how much you're in love with each other, you still have to work. You're still going to have disagreements, misunderstandings, perceptions. You're still going to have things. You're still going to do stupid things and hurtful things. And all of that is a process, and you're learning, and that's marriage. And that's also being a housewife, a stay-at-home partner. It is. So yeah, there have been times like that. Like I said, that's not the way it is now. We've come a long way. But there was a learning curve. And it took these nearly 20 years to suss all that out. But then, of course, now, oh, Judy, I get you. I feel you 100%. Oh, God. Bonnie, I get it. I do. Thanks so much. You guys, thank you so much for sharing your own stories, your own perspective. That means so much to me. God, it means so much to me. See how much battery we have left. Why is this damn thing? Okay, it's charging again for a minute, but we're at 9%. So if this thing just cuts off, I'm sorry. It'll charge now, but it's a slow charge, and doing the live stream drains the battery, and so it's struggling to do both because I haven't fixed the whole port situation. I did use the spray that I bought, and it helped, certainly. I was able to get the phone connected to the laptop and transferred all the footage over. Hallelujah. But it's still struggling with the charging situation, and especially charging while using the phone. Technology. What are you going to do? Vicky, I'm sending you my love. I can't help with anything, but I'm sending you my love. And I hope somehow that helps. You're not alone. You're not invisible. Okay? Rhonda, yes, I can live stream through the computer. It's just not a good picture. I was saying yesterday, it's like 2016. Not the computer, it's a newer computer, but I was testing out the camera, and it doesn't look great. Doesn't look great. But we're gonna play with it some more. I'm gonna figure it out. Oh, Dennis, I appreciate that. I would like to think that I've grown and matured and learned, and that both of us have as partners. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change, and this is something I'm gonna have to work through. It doesn't change this dependence, this, without the van, this feeling of helplessness, or where I feel like I need permission. I don't ask permission anymore. I don't. If I do, and then see how it goes. If I need to buy something, I'm going to buy it with the family money, and then we'll see. You know what I mean? And that's what I've been doing the past like year or two is, yeah, doom, Bonnie. There is a sense of that. Absolutely, there's a sense of that. And Judy, fantastic. That's the way I'm raising my kids too. This floss. Okay, we're going to unplug you guys and plug you back in. Yeah, we're just not going to get ahead. We're not going to get ahead, this damn thing. What I need to do is have the phone fully charged before we live stream. That's just what I'm going to have to do. Note to self. Until we get the vlogging camera at some point. But anyway, those feelings are all still there. And that's something I'm going to have to find a way to work through. Because it can really mess you up. Like mentally, emotionally, it can really mess you up. Just making it, you know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. It's a worth, a value situation, a self-worth, a personal value situation. And I don't like it. I don't like it. But yeah, I don't ask anymore. I'm 44 years old. My God, I've given 3 kids and anyway. So I don't ask. And then if like it ended up being like, and that's, I should clarify, if it's over like X amount of dollars, then I'm gonna talk first. I'm not gonna ask. I'm not asking for permission because I don't get paid a salary being here, being the mom. Okay. But I will at least discuss and say, you know, what do the finances look like? This is something I'm needing to do. Where are we at? Rather than, would it be okay if I, or can I, or no. I don't do that anymore. But it took a long time to get to that place. Yeah, it took a long time. It really, like, James has been in a salary position as a supervisor for several years now. And it's only been in like the last year, maybe even 6 months, that I've started just buying what I need if I don't have the money for it myself. and not worrying about it unless, of course, it's over a certain dollar amount. And so far it's working out. I don't think necessarily it could have 10 years ago, because those versions of him and I 10 years ago were not who we are now. And also not financially where we are. Not that I'm, again, not wealthy in any way except in love and in relation to maybe, less fortunate circumstances. But we have worked hard and lived frugally and, all of that. And so it's a different situation than it was 10 years ago. But it will, I think, forever be a struggle accepting this circumstance of dependence. I think it will. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. Is that a result of the way I was raised and all of that? Yeah, certainly. And is it something I want to overcome? Yeah, I do. But how? I don't know. Maybe with this channel. We shall see. But guys, I gotta go use the little girl's room. So I'm gonna let you all go. But I'll be back tomorrow. And it would be so cool. I don't know what time yet. I'll put up an announcement in a community post. But it would be so cool if you guys could join me and we could suss out some kind of script, kind of situation for the Frugal family for talking about all of this. Van situation, dumpster diving situation, Patreon situation, all of it. I would appreciate your input so much. Anyway, thank you for being wonderful. Thank you for being part of this and being with me. You guys are amazing and such a good sounding board. All right. Have a beautiful day. Be well. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Okay. Okay. Bye.